Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews. Today we have with us Bina from Habitat Sales and Lettings. So welcome, Bina. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience in terms of who you are, what you do and how you benefit your clients.
Great, thank you, Chris. My name's Bina from Habitat Sales and Lettings. I'm based in Leeds. What we do primarily is we concentrate on property lettings. We deal with a wide variety of clients from all walks of life. We house people that are claiming benefits. We also house people that are professional workers. Where we started out as a business is we studied the benefit system because that was very much in demand, as it is now in this current climate, but also we moved on to your higher end properties as well, so housing, professional tenants, things like your doctors, your teachers, your surgeons, that sort of thing. So we have a wide range of mix in terms of tenant types and property types in the portfolio as well. How I benefit my clients is we try and get the best incoming rent for them in order for the landlords to be able to go away and concentrate on what it is that their core business is or what they do, so they don't have to actually worry about the property investment side of things, and they're in safe hands knowing that their investment is ticking along, and we're monitoring the investment as time goes along. So that's how we benefit our clients, but also we have a service to our tenants as well, equally. So we make sure that any sort of issues, any worries, any challenges, that we're there and we're on hand. And the background of the knowledge, especially on the benefit side in this climate right now, is something that's proven to come in really handy.
Brilliant. Must be very interesting times. I know we work with one or two people in the property world, mortgage brokers, etc. And I know things have been very busy for them. But looking back over the last sort of 9-10 months for you, going pre-lockdown and going into lockdown, how's the outbreak affected you?
It has affected my business like it has, I'm sure, every business. But what we've done is we've had to put plans in place to try and mitigate any major risks. So things like, again, going back to the experience that we've got in the benefit system. So we're making sure that people that have never claimed benefits before and don't know how to do that, we've been on hand to sort of hold their hand effectively and walk them through the process. So the tenant is getting the rent paid, but also the landlord's actually, being able to get their mortgage paid as well on the other side. So that's been one of the biggest challenges. It's just making sure that we mitigate any losses, and there have been losses. That's a fact, and I'm sure that there's been losses in other businesses or even similar businesses like mine in the lettings industry.
Goodness, that's so you've really focused on helping people get through this process, and it hadn't occurred to me till you said it that some people will be on benefits the first time, which must be quite a significant thing to deal with.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's quite daunting, especially for somebody that's worked all their life and they have no clue about how benefits work. And there's no other option for them. We've had tenants that have had no option to be furloughed as well.
Yes.
So that's been quite unfortunate, but at the same time, they've learned themselves as well as to how things do work if they were ever in that situation again.
Yep.
but communication, I think that's the biggest thing that I've I wouldn't say I've mastered, but I'm still working on it, is effective communication, not just between our business and the tenant, but also the business and the landlord as well. So we're in the middle, and we have to make sure that we communicate, and we try and, I guess, we're transparent in that communication, and making sure that we can't guarantee that income, they're going to get their rent or they're going to get the mortgage paid, but we can try and make sure that we help, and we give them all the information necessary to help moving forward. Because if the landlord knows there's going to be a delay, then at least then they can plan to possibly speak to their mortgage provider in good time.
Yep. Brilliant. Wowzers, sounds like it's been very, very busy period for you. So what are the key adaptations in terms of having to work with, in a lockdown situation and the different tiers we've seen? What other adaptations have you had to make?
Prior to lockdown, there's physical visits to properties.
Yes.
For example, inspections, that sort of thing, viewings. One of the biggest major things that we did prior to lockdown is we invested in virtual tours for viewing. So as an example, we had a virtual tour made at the beginning of March, a couple of weeks before the lockdown happened, and it was an empty property. And during the lockdown, we only arrange virtual viewings with people. So we'd send a link to interested tenants, and just by doing that, we managed to actually secure the property and get a tenant, get them referenced, get them passed with all that side of things, without actually physically going to the property. And the other thing is, a lot of Zoom calls like you and I are doing right now. Yep. Is what we did with tenants, things like our right to rent checks, making sure that they are the person that we're dealing with.
Yes.
So making sure that we're ticking all those boxes, but on a virtual level.
I guess there's lots of industries that are very physical, but I guess physical presence is, as you say, quite different to go from showing people around, doing all those physical things you'd normally do at a property with somebody, whether that's a new tenant or even a landlord. That's that must be quite interesting to have gone onto. And how have you personally sort of got on with the virtual world?
I've picked it up. I have to say, I was a little bit nervous at first, but I've picked it up quite well. And it's like with everything else, isn't it? The more you do something, the easier it just gets, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the more comfortable you are with it.
Totally. And I think I think the other thing that sort of I personally sort of got into quite quickly was it is just it's just how we need to communicate. So I prepare the same for a Zoom call as I would with a meeting, but in a meeting we often make slight mistakes or whatever. Zoom is Zoom, and things like it's slowing down or the internet dropping is just what happens. So worrying about stuff like that is a little pointless, and I think people just get it. We've even had we've had interviews that we've been doing where the internet has dropped a little bit and it's a bit slow, but rather than change that's just what we're used to now, I think. And it's, most people are used to the fact that occasionally the signal will drop or the person will freeze for a little bit, and people are a lot more tolerant, I think, than if we were doing a formal sort of interview with video cameras and stuff. We might expect the production, I think they call it production quality, to be higher, but this is just two people talking on Zoom, and that's the new normal, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it always makes you realize that no matter what challenges that you face, there is always another option. You can find another creative way of trying to solve the problem or come up with the idea or whatever it is that you're doing. There's always another way of doing it. You don't always have to jump in your car to go and do that viewing, or go and interview somebody, for example, for a job. There's always a way around it.
Absolutely. It reminds me. There's a great book by a guy called Simon Sinek, which is Start with Why. That's not to do with what I'm going to say, but there's almost like a great title for a book. You start with how, and it's not can I or can't I. It's how can I.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because as you say, I can't get in the car anymore. We can't go and look at it. But what can we do? We do have technology, and I think one of my learnings for what we do is how much. While technology was there, it might have been in the background, but this technology was there, how much we could have used it pre-COVID. We didn't need COVID to come along to say, actually, we could talk to people quite effectively on Zoom and even, present things and do things that we're doing now because we have to, but I think we'll keep on doing. So what would you say are some of the wins that you've seen over this last period?
The wins, I think more effective communication has to be one of the ones on top of the list.
Yeah.
It's easy to, I guess, prior to lockdown, people were in a job, they were paying their rent, everything was ticking along. But it's those difficult conversations and that communication, you have to have a good, anybody can, learn the skill, but you have to master it. And when it comes to money as well, making sure that people are actually paying their debts, you have to be quite skilled in that area to try and mediate between a landlord and tenant. And that's, I have to say, one of the wins is that's the one that comes on top of my list.
Brilliant. That's wonderful. And I can imagine those conversations become, especially in this situation, quite emotional, quite heated, or can be. There's the potential for that. So obviously, navigating your way through that whole process to come out with a resolution that both parties are acceptable to. I'm not saying happy with, but acceptable to, must be quite interesting. That's I can see how that would be a pretty cool win. So that's fantastic. I'm just thinking about there's the thing we use a lot. The phrase I use a lot with people is the idea of a grown-up conversation. Let's have the grown-up conversation. This party might be challenged to pay financially. You might want you might want all the rent that might be owed now. But the reality is, the grown-up thing is that's not going to happen. So let's work out what can be. And the more we can get into grown-up conversations in pretty much most parts of our life, I think the easier and better it is, rather than going to the emotional and the sort of that creates challenge. So that's a great win. So looking at what you have changed and how you operate now, what adjustments that you've put in place will you keep doing once we come out into whatever a new normal looks like?
The adjustments for me is very much the systemizing. We've systemized a lot more in the business since we've had COVID come in, and this is around things like paperwork, making sure that I'd say 95% of what we do in terms of administration and paperwork is all done via e-signature, for example. And also checks and things like that are pretty much done all electronically, because that it just saves so much time. And it's also what I found is, we're dealing with the next generation, and that's all they know as well. They don't want to be printing paper and signing, wads of paperwork. So that's one of the things that we will continue. The other thing is virtual tours. We'll continue to do virtual tours going forward. And again, from a tenant's perspective, because we do ask tenants a lot about what it is that they prefer, and they do prefer that, virtual tours as well. On the landlord side, what we'd keep is things like systemizing in terms of them getting their landlord statements sort of around the clock. They've got apps so they can see if they're on the go, they can sort of see what's coming in or where they are financially. There's lots of things that we've implemented over the last sort of 9-10 months that we think, right, this is actually now the way forward.
Yeah.
And also the landlords prefer that as well.
Yeah. I think often when you look at how we operate, and I say we, UI, other businesses we talk to, when you start to have to do things differently, and you say, well, why did I get in my car every time a client wanted to see me? Why did I, say, and it's just fascinating, isn't it? When you think that technology sort of was there and was accelerating through, but most of us, from a mindset perspective, felt we needed to keep with the old normal way longer than evidently we probably needed to.
Yeah. I guess there's disadvantages too, especially on the social aspect side of things. Yes. And that will probably, I can see going forward, that will be another issue in itself. We do need to socially interact naturally. We do. It has a massive impact on our confidence as people, just the way we live life. Because that's how we've been brought up, haven't we? I mean, we've only been going through this for nearly a year, compared to all the years we've been brought up and what we've been taught from a young age.
No, absolutely. One of the ways we're looking at it is that a lot of the transactional process of doing business will continue to do online, because it's more effective for both parties in general. But it's nice to then maybe have proper social events where we might have done some business with a bit of socializing. We're actually going to say, right, okay, we'll do business primarily using this sort of structures, but then we'll actually properly go out to dinner with clients and things and do something there's no business involved, so you can get to know people better.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be quite nice. I'm really looking forward to that. It's just saying, like, actually, we'll leave business at the door and we'll just get to know each other. So I think for us it will be different, hopefully better. But we'll see. Of the things that you've changed, is there anything in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, obviously, is there anything that you might have done sooner?
Yeah, I'd probably say I'm going back to the virtual viewings again, and the virtual tours. Yeah. Because when I look back, I think, and you've just mentioned that, there was no need to do all the traveling. Even though, again, coming back to the social aspect side of things, it's great to be face to face with people.
Yes.
But there is no need to do too much of that, because a lot of the stuff that you can do, for example, if you're screening a tenant, you can ask all the questions that you want online or on a telephone call, for example, and get to know them that way, or even do a face-to-face Zoom call. The only thing that's missing is them actually being there physically at the property and having a look around, which is an option we still offer.
Yep.
It's just making sure that we are putting in place sort of plans to make sure that everyone's safe in that environment as well.
I suppose I'm just thinking, off the top of my mind, I might be totally missing the mark, but assuming that, like most sort of purchasing processes, people look at more than one, it almost makes sense as a two-stage process of, let's look at a few virtually, and then if there's one that I really like, you might then want to go to a physical viewing. But that means that you for the same property, you'll only do one or two physical and more virtual. And I think that's sort of similar to many people. Ultimately, we might want to get together, but let's use Zoom as a process by deciding if that's probable rather than possible.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. I think with if you think about a sales process, when you start, it's possible we might want to do some work together. So why don't we just do that using Zoom? When it's probable, we might want to get together, because that might be a bit more personal, and that's okay. But divide the two. The possible can be done a lot more leveraged virtually, and then the probable. Cool.
Yeah.
So obviously we're on lockdown 3.0, and I'm feeling that the second one sort of came and went without too many people really, in my opinion, really noticing. But What's been your reaction to this third lockdown?
I think we just need to do whatever's needed to be done.
Yeah.
If there's no need for you to go out and, go into another household or go and meet another individual, if it's not a matter of life or death, and we've just got to, not do it for the sake of, 7 weeks. It could be longer, who knows, but I think the sooner we can just do what we have to do, and it is unfortunate, I've got family myself, and there's elderly people in my family as well, and it's making sure that we try and communicate with the most vulnerable as much as possible. But my thoughts really for 3.0 is we don't want to get to a 4.0, and we just want to make sure that this is the last one and we can just bin it, and we can move forward. So whatever we need to do, we just need to do.
Love it. Yeah, I totally agree. I love the way we could get through and bin it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
It is that I think, the idea is the final push, isn't it? It's like, we know the vaccine's coming. That should, all the evidence is that's going to make a radical difference to the spread, the spread rate, and obviously the contracting rate. So we just got to do what it takes between now and a point, in the future when that takes over, we don't, we can be less concerned. So talking of that, looking forward, so we will get back to some form of new normal, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to, I think, firstly is family. Just getting back to, having been around the dinner table with, extended family. I think that's the first thing for me. And then, it slowly but surely just getting in touch and meeting people more than anything, and making sure that we can socialize safely again. Possibly have a holiday, try and book a holiday in, and
be nice.
and go abroad somewhere. I think that's probably what I'm most looking forward to as well. And I'm engaged to a lovely man, and hopefully plan a wedding at some point if
Brilliant.
we can. Which is what we've put aside for obvious reasons. So.
Yes.
So it's a lot of it's sort of personal, but business-wise, I'm looking forward to, it's not just about my business. I'm looking forward to the relationships that I have with clients, landlords, tenants. I'm looking forward to seeing them thrive in life as well, because I have known, for example, tenants for a number of years, 5-10 years, and I've seen the roller coaster that they've gone through, and I've been on that journey with them. So I'm looking forward to seeing people develop and having the opportunity to have a job that they want to go for, or, a business that they want to start. So it's not just about my business and Habitat. It's a lot of it's the people around you as well, and who make that business happen for you.
Wonderful. I really love the fact that what comes across really strongly is, your clients are, that your tenants are a really close part of your business. They're not just the people we let the properties to, they're the people that are part of your community. And clearly, you as you talked about, helping people potentially on the first order benefits, or just seeing them flourish and grow is wonderful. So obviously it's great to get back to the normal and the positive stuff. What might be the challenges moving forward, do you see?
Challenges moving forward, I think that there'll still be an element of, I guess, tenants struggling, even landlords, I guess, on the other side, struggling as a result of the tenants struggling. But in terms of challenges, I do think there'll be a lot more, and again, it can have an impact on my business as well. I know it's a wider issue, but people that are in a home that are all alone, and people that have, either a vulnerability of some sort. I think they'd be big challenges. And we have direct contact with people that are having those types of challenges. They're vulnerable. So I still think that will be a thing that will take time to address.
Yeah.
But again, that's very much connected to our business, because we're in the business of dealing with people, and dealing with lives, really, and income is a huge part, isn't it, of life and getting by and that sort of thing. So we have to take on board what comes with that as well.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely. I think just the social aspect, the vulnerabilities that people have, it's not going to go away overnight. Even if tomorrow we were all vaccinated and everything was fine again, that, people say, for example, that have had mental issues, that's still going to be there. That's not going to go away. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I'd probably face within the business.
Yeah, goodness. So if you look again, looking backwards, but to take forwards, what have you learned about yourself over the last year?
What I've learned about myself is to step back and absorb all the facts of a situation before I start planning to take any action of any sort, and just making sure that, if there's a situation, you listen to and note both sides of the story before anything actually happens. I've learned to be more resilient in just the way I am, more understanding, not taking things personally, because in this type of business, that can easily take over, and just understanding really where someone else is in their situation, putting myself in their shoes. And I always say to myself every day, I always say that there's always somebody out there that's in a worse position than I am. So I should feel grateful. Yes. To be where I am today.
Totally agree. I think it's I love the fact that you take a step back and think about the situation. I love the idea that I picked up some time ago, that we all are operating with the best intentions given the resources we have. Now, resources can be obviously financial, they could be time, they could be what we believe to be true. So, most of us are just doing what we think is the right thing.
Yeah.
Now that might be what somebody else does. We might envisage as being totally the wrong thing, but they're just operating to their set of with their resources, their beliefs, their standards. And if you accept that, then it doesn't necessarily make it right, but it makes it understandable and acceptable to then find a resolution.
And also it does make sense. Yeah. And also, as you mentioned there, they might think it's the right thing to do, but if somebody was to come across and put options to them to do it a different way, then it opens their mindset, and they will naturally think that there's a possibility here of actually it's not all so bad, is it?
Yeah, it's there's a few words people use that give an indication of in effect a closed mind, which is things like I can't or I must. That's suggesting that's the only option. Well, as you rightly say, normally there are other options. There just may be options that you wouldn't want to take, or you choose not to take. But at least opening it up means, and maybe those options now are more relevant in the new world than they were in the old world. So always doing what we've done isn't always going to get us the same result moving forward.
And you'll find that, well, this is my experience anyway, that you'll find that it's the most simplest of options, and you think, well, why didn't I see that? Been staring at me, all along.
I think it's true of anybody. When you're up to your neck in muck and bullets, it's not always easy to see the wood for the trees. That's the thing. So your point about taking a step back is so relevant. And I think it's a discipline, isn't it? It's a discipline to do so, because it's it's not easy not to, but it's sort of it's difficult to do that sometimes when there's so much urgency going on. I've got to get this done, I've got that done. But sometimes, as you rightly say, just taking a step back can find the quicker, easier road. But it's not always easy to find. So wonderful. Look, this has been a wonderful discussion. Just keen to know, sort of as a closing positive thought, what you see the future looking like for you in the business.
All good things for the future of the business. Yeah, lots of I see, things expanding in certain areas of the business. There'll be more opportunities, I'm sure. There might be more opportunities to have a separate arm to the business doing, something or providing a different service. For example, going more into, even though we do some small sort of sales now and again, just maybe expanding on things like that. And I see great things happening where other people are given an opportunity as well, creating jobs, that sort of thing. And I guess, hopefully just allowing people to test out what they want to do in life, and what they enjoy doing. So yeah, I see good things for the business. I see things going in an upward direction for sure.
Brilliant. I'm sure they will. I think with clearly the positive attitude that you have, if you, I think we might have said before we started that one of my favourite quotes is Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I think that's going to help stand us in good stead. Is just then it becomes the how. As you say, if I believe I can, then it's just the how can I, rather than
how. Yeah. And then it's putting a plan in place, isn't it? Then.
Absolutely. Then it's just put a plan. It's just say, well, that's my choice, that's my goal. Now it's the how, and the how is a set of actions I need and decisions I need to make and actions to take. So it becomes a step-by-step process rather than a big ask from here to there.
Yeah, consistency. That's another thing I've learned. Being consistent with everything that you do.
Brilliant. Yeah. So,
every day, and sort of consistency, routines, all these things. Especially, I think routines in the current situation where things are so different. Yeah.
Sticking to a set of or developing a set of routines that keep us grounded and positive will be important. And as you rightly say, not just at a point at which we can mix with some form of distancing. It's just moving forward, because the impact of this last 12 months, I guess, is here for a quite significant period, probably in different ways. So having the tools to deal with that is going to be key. Well, Bina, thank you so much. It's been absolutely delightful, and it'd be good to catch up within another 6-12 months and see what the next stages will be. Well, thank you. That has been really wonderful, Bina. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.